Okay, thank you everybody for attending. We have a full house today. This is the Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting of July 8th, 2024. This meeting is being recorded and also will be available on our website. Let's do a roll call of the Board of Directors first. We have.
All right. Roll call of the board. Brian Noggle.
Here.
Amir Famili.
Here.
Ted Lyons.
Here.
Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Norma Cusick.
Here.
Kevin Baker.
Just here.
Linda Roosevelt. Sean Ziller.
Here.
Mark Ramos. Mark? Mark, can you hear us?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes. I'm assuming you're talking to me.
Yes, I'm asking if you're here.
I'm here.
Good to see you.
Great, we have 8 board members present. So
All right, thank you. All right, we have a board package that was distributed in advance electronically. It was a hard copy and available on our website. Let's review the agenda and see if there's any need for any changes, additions, corrections, or executive session.
there are no changes, no corrections, and no executive sessions. I would like to, however, just acknowledge we have a very full agenda, which means we also have a very full room. And one of the faces who is not on the agenda to present anything, but so you know who it is, we do have one of our interns here that Andrew may want to introduce.
Sure. I'll let Genesis introduce herself, but she's hanging around with me this week. She's learning a little bit about compliance and just general permitting on the water and wastewater side, so.
I'll just stand up so everyone can see me. Hi, I'm Genesis. I go to Lehigh University. I'm a rising junior. I'm currently a global studies double minor in international relations and environmental sciences. So my goal is to go into environmental law.
Very good, thank you. Welcome. Being on our program. All right.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we move now to approval of the minutes from the June 24th, 2024 board meetings.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented in the packet. No comments, no changes suggested.
I will second that.
All right, we'll give that one to Sean for the second. Motion by Jeff. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Approved. At this time, we open up the floor to any public comments on any items that are not on the agenda. Are there any public input today?
No, thanks, Brian. And FYI, Brian Chamberlain isn't with us today.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. And Roy. All right, moving on to action items and discussion items. We have 2 under finance administration. First one being a resolution number 7, 2024-1, seeking approval of the Suburban Water Division and Suburban Wastewater Division tapping fees. It said approval, it's the yellow documents within our board package and it's digital board packet pages 7 through 97.
Thank you. And I'm assuming everyone in the room read all 90 pages of the stunning report. As you know, the tapping fees must be approved by resolution, and we're pleased to say we have our tapping fee consultant Dave Bush here today, and he worked closely with Ed on putting these together. So Ed or Dave, take it away.
Will be very brief, but I just wanted to comment for those of you who are not used to talking about tapping fees. The purpose of tapping fees are a buy-in contribution by new customers to the system or customers that are growing within the system and using a higher capacity in your system, both water and the sewer system. There are, of all those 97 pages, there are probably 3 pages that are critical, okay? 3 to 5 pages that are critical. On the water tapping fee report, I would recommend page 2 and page 7 of the water report. Page 2 is a brief summary of the results should I say, the overview results of the tapping fee calculation in table 1. And on page 7 and 8, which are not numbered pages, but immediately follow page 6, which is a numbered page. There is a summary chart that shows all of the calculations, the current rates, and compares those two so that you can see the difference. And we also calculate the percentage change in all instances. On the water tapping fee, the calculated charges have increased with the exception of one where they have actually decreased by 2.11%. On the sewer tapping fee, the key page is number 5 and number 6, which again follows, oh, wait a minute, excuse me. Page 6 is the key page in the sewer tapping fee, which follows the number page number 5. And again, it is a summary of the calculations by specific area. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. Some of this gets rather detailed. That's why you have 97 pages. So.
If I can make just a couple brief comments, because we only look at these once a year and there's a lot to look at here. It was maybe 2 years ago that we redid the water ones. So while pages 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 that David mentioned shows the rates for all the different systems, you see that they're all the same except for Arcadia, because we made that conscious decision to consolidate into a common tapping fee for all of our systems. On the wastewater side, it's a little bit different because the systems are smaller. Some of them are growing and some of them are not growing. So where you see very high tapping fees, for example, for the Sand Springs system, $38,000 tapping fee for the capacity charge. That's a system that's not growing, but we had to recently replace the plant. And so that's why the tapping fee is what it is, but don't necessarily expect any new connections in that system. So just a little bit of nuance about how these come together.
Any questions from the board?
I just have a general question. I assume somewhere on the website, there's a summary list of all the fees and tapping fees and other fees that are all out there and available if anybody wants to look at them.
Yeah, so what we do, because the law indicates the method of doing the calculation as well as the resolution that's required for approval. That's why you have those forms in front of you. But we convert that into our rate schedule that's on our website. It's already ready to be posted, assuming that we'll have approval today of the new tapping fees. And that would be effective August 1st. So we have some time to let folks know about the change.
The key to this is that this is all dictated by, process is dictated by the municipal authorities. And it's following that those rules and regulations as to what we can charge. And is there anything else that stands out as that's significantly different than prior years?
No, it's pretty much the same as last year in terms of the process that we've gone through, updating any new capital expenditures, removing any assets that have been taken out of service, updating the outstanding debt and any trending in original of capital in the calculations. But that's the process that we go through annually. And it generates the appropriate calculation per Act 57 of 2003 and results in the calculations in front of you.
I have a question. How long does it take to do this? You're doing it every year. Is this simply some entries into a computer program and then you hit enter and bingo?
I wish, I think Ed gets about 800 questions, 400 for water and 400 for sewer by the time we are done. It's a matter of understanding all of that detail. And then, yes, it does go into a spreadsheet and it does spit out the answer, but it's not as simple as typing in the current year and hitting enter or something like that.
So it takes, I mean, Ed, a lot of time on your part, Ed,
Actually, probably more on Dave's part because he's got a very thorough database that he maintains. And we provide a lot of capital projects and information on that. I spend the time answering the questions, but he probably spends a couple days looking at that.
Yeah, quite a few days to do it. It has gotten simpler. And the cost associated with doing it annually is slowly going down, which is a good thing. But it has gotten simpler each year, mostly because the capital projects aren't as intense. We were playing a little bit of catch up when these were first done.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Have there been any challenges to these numbers at all by municipalities? Any questioning, feedback?
No, I think the biggest user really of the tapping fee schedule is our Western Lehigh group because they're passing through our tapping fee to their new connections in their townships and boroughs. And so they are already aware that we're looking at this and updating their forms and getting ready to implement, but not any.
Any other board questions? All right, then we have before us resolution number 7/2024-1. A resolution establishing the various components of the Lehigh County Authority capital recovery fees for the various suburban division water systems and the capital recovery fees for the various suburban division wastewater systems. We have a motion for acceptance of this resolution. Motion by Amir, seconded by Jeff. Are there any questions? All right, let's do a voice vote on this, please.
Roll call vote on resolution 7/2024-1, Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Amir Famili,
Yes.
Ted Lyons.
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Norma Cusick,
Yes.
Kevin Baker,
Yes.
John Ziller,
Yes.
Mark Ramus.
Yes.
Thank you. That's 8-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that's fast. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
And Ed, you, the team.
He does a lot of work and it's very thorough. I can say that. And so we're in good hands. He's pretty much an expert on it.
Okay, good. All right, next on the agenda is LCA Operations Center expansion, seeking approval. Blue documents in our board package and digital board package pages 98 to 101.
Yeah, so for this one, we have Matt Dorner, one project engineer, who's going to give a little presentation and discuss the project. But before we do that, I wanted to just make some introductory comments about this project because it's a significant project to expand our open office and create some office space. And we just got done talking about staff expansions as well. So wanted to put a couple of thoughts together for you and then Matt can go into the project details a little bit. I will say that this project has been in our capital plan for a couple of years now, just not as defined as it is right now. So it's not a new concept. It's something that we have presented in the past. A little reminder that this building was constructed in 2010. We moved in and had these wonderful plans for filling the office space over a long period of time. And as you know, things changed drastically in 2012 and 2013 when the Allentown lease came together for us. So that drastically changed our staffing, headcount, the way we operate. And the space that we constructed for the future was very quickly filled up. So we've been operating for the past 11 years or so with pretty much every available office space filled as a result of that. There's been a few other things that the board has heard about over time from us, one being file storage. So we have a significant amount of plan documents, engineering plan documents that we do reference and need to retain forever more, but we've gone through a process of digitizing them but still have the paper files that we need to retain. And so we have a growing file storage, and we have other files besides the engineering plan documents. We have a number of things that are going on within our building now, such as people sharing office spaces, or people working from home primarily because they don't have a permanent space here. Folks are using meeting space as workspaces at this point, which then reduces the amount of meeting space that we have. I mean, essentially, I'm just trying to paint a picture that this is not a new problem. It's something we've been encountering and trying to work with the space that we have. But we've reached a point where we need to do a few things to create capacity for the people that we have and give adequate workspace. There's a few things going on in addition to the project that Matt's going to talk about today. We're also doing some work in other buildings to some master planning work for the Allentown facilities that are very dated. And there's some capacity to create additional space and also update the spaces that need HVAC or other kinds of upgrades to make sure they're healthy workspaces for our employees. AJ is working on the Capital Works area to create consolidated file space and new office space for employees. And a variety of things. We're looking at the lead program, for example, and trying to find ways to get the people who are working on the lead program more co-located more together so that they can be more effective as a team. Lots of different things happening here related to office space. This project is the largest project, and but wanted to give you the context of the variety of things we're working on. So this project is going to help us in a variety of ways in terms of creating office space for folks who need it, also create some collaborative workspace for teams, and also some consolidated storage space so that we can create more of a singular location for some of the storage and create room for office space in this place where we're storing files now. Anything else that I should cover? That was
a
quite a
great
bit.
introduction.
So, yeah, and I didn't want to throw Matt into the fire without giving some context, because he's going to be running the project itself for the design and construction, but there's a lot of background and other things happening organizationally that kind of lead to this project being important. And Chuck, you want to give it any more overview?
I'll just say that there was a study done in 2023 looking at different concepts for the building addition, which will be built out back. You won't see it very well from the front entrance. Matt is going to provide a little PowerPoint that shows you 3D renderings of what this is going to look like, along with a floor plan. So this is something that we're planning to conditioned on the board approving the design and bid phase, which we're asking for today. It would be constructed in 2026. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt, who's going to walk you through a little PowerPoint and provide some additional detail.
Right, and so as Chuck said, last year we had Duke Engineering. We discussed with them our needs, and they came up with two conceptual designs. They had two separate exteriors and some differences in the internal layout. We obviously are looking for, as was said, additional office space, meeting space, collaborative areas to work in, and the second floor in both scenarios would be start off as storage, but it would have options in the future if we ever needed to change that to anything else. So if we want to go to the next slide, this is the first concept. The exterior, this is contemporary, similar to the existing operations center. And again, 2 stories.
If I could just add, the big shaded area that you see, that's the parking lot out back.
And we are located right here. This is the front of the building, and the conference room that we're in right now is right here.
So the layout of this, as you can see, there's some office space, collaborative areas. And the second floor has a lot of storage area, which is greatly needed. We can go to the next slide. We can see some exteriors. There is the front, sort of a 3D rendering of what that would look like out in the parking lot out back. The next slide will show from the rear, the same building. Both of them are very similar, but there's minor differences. Option 2, same exact location, a little bit more office space there. There's a office up in the second floor, but definitely has the collaborative areas that are greatly needed and a conference room. The next slide will show the exterior. This has obviously has brick there, somewhat different visually. The rear is on the next slide. Like I said, the exact same location. It would take away one row of parking there, but we are well into other plans to add parking up front. Actually more than that to make up for that. Parking is obviously very important here as well. So we had those two concepts, and what we had selected was the contemporary exterior, and that was option 1, and the interior layout of option 2, which has a little bit more office area, but again, very similar, has the collaborative areas and storage upstairs. And so Dewey provided the proposal for design and bid phase work. That would include, detailed design services, site, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. They would provide permitting services for the land development, obviously with Lower Macungie Township, Lehigh County Conservation District, and the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. They would attend progress meetings with us on the work and provide bid phase services, including opening the bids, issuing addendas, and answering requests for information. They're proposing a good team that we'd like to help them. Dewey obviously would be the lead, and he would be performing structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design and working on cost estimating. They also have USA Architects who will provide architectural and interior design service. Art Swallow Associates would do the civil engineering and site design and the land development permitting with the township. They also have Kleinfelder, who would be doing geotechnical engineering services. Also, CHA Consulting, who acquired Dewey earlier this year, they'll be engaged in QA/QC reviews and some specialty consulting work, such as fire protection.
On that point, I know in our green sheets, which are labeled, that CHA Consulting is listed as the, I guess it's still Dewey on that, so it's a little confusing as to, is Dewey a subsidiary of the other company?
They changed their name. Internally here, we have to start using the new name. It's Clow Harbor and Associates. They acquired Dewey.
Yeah.
So Dewey, the office is still there, same people, but they've been acquired, so that's correct.
They're still issuing correspondence as Dewey.
They are.
So it's a transition period that they're going through.
Yeah.
So if we sign this contract with them, it's okay, no problem with changing the name or ownership. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
No, that's a very good question, and their proposal is listed as Dewey Engineering, and that was just this June. So, yeah.
I think the name change took place July 1st, to be honest. So, because I did get something from Dewey post-July, and it's under the new letterhead. So we may need to make a contract with them.
And so just a general schedule for the work, if we were to start now, the design work, the permitting. Would take approximately, probably a little less than a year. And construction, probably around a year as well. That's their early estimates of time.
So 2026 construction. I want to point out there's an error on the CPA, the capital project authorization. It's not the correct project title. Matt made a revised sheet and gave it to Lisa before the meeting, but I apologize for that. Would make it to the board notes.
What is the correction?
It says Katie on the top of this here.
It's changed on the website.
Okay,
Oh,
thanks.
Yeah.
And so I think the next slide is kind of the combination of the various options as we had selected from those two. I said the contemporary exterior and the office space there as it's 2 stories.
Brian, Sean has his hand up.
No, John.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's great that you had the 2 options to choose from, and I like the kind of expanded collaborative space in the second one. I'm going to go back to the first, in making the decision on choosing the first facade layout. Kind of what was the thinking there, and also between the first and the second, is there a cost differential that steered you away from option 2, or was it purely aesthetic?
You want me to answer that?
Please.
I can do that. There was certainly a team that looked at both. And the thinking was the exterior of the more contemporary version was actually styled to match more of the front of the building and the newer parts of the building. Whereas the brick was more traditional, kind of reflecting the remaining brick pieces of the building, which are really not that visible at this point, because they're all front, the building is, facade is more of the contemporary look. So we felt that the contemporary look matched a little better. But as far as pricing, I don't know if we have that.
I think they were close. They were comparable. Apple 2 options, yeah.
Okay, that answers it. Thank you.
I have a question. I didn't notice a lounge and bar area for the board of directors.
Here.
Addendum.
A couple of questions from my end. Obviously, we're spending $4 million. That's a lot of money. So have we brought somebody from outside to look at the office space? Is there any way we can increase the efficiency of office space without expanding?
I believe that's being looked at now, the existing office space.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's involved in the master plan work that you're doing, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, for this space, we're doing work in the capital works area to maximize the usage. For other spaces in other parts of the system, like Klein's Island, that's being handled within the master plan. But as far as this building goes, we looked at, basically maximizing the space downstairs.
I mean, for example, have we looked at if we rent an office outside and move the files outside, what would be the cost versus spending $1 million? In my old days, up to certain grade, you were in the cubicle. Above certain grade, you were in office, right? That was a reality in their products, right? It has changed now with the new building. So I'm just trying to see, have we looked at a way to optimize the office space through different means rather than spending $4 million worth of capital?
We have looked at a number of different things over time, and I don't have a true outline a cost benefit for you. But we explored a number of rental spaces to consolidate customer service, because we have 2 customer service offices in 2 locations. So we looked at rental space for that, and then reusing the space that we have. It's pretty expensive. But in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000 a month rental space. I think that's what we looked at, Chris, for that. Recently, you looked at the cost for consolidating inventory and field services and fleet. And if you want to share something about that, Chris, I know that was very expensive as
It
well.
was remarkably expensive. So we kind of thought, in this whole concept of better utilization of space, if we took our field services team from here in the city and had a more centralized location for shared equipment and everything, that it would be more efficient for our guys to come back and forth and run around the Lehigh Valley. But ultimately, with the cost of rents nowadays, we found a few places that we would consider suitable out by Queen City Airport. But for a 75,000 square foot area, it was upwards of $55,000 a month. So, we would hit that couple $1 million mark in no time, just for renting a space to gain a couple of years of more office space here. So I believe internally, after bouncing all of this around, the thought process behind, adding on some new space out back was probably more efficient in the long run.
So how many more people we can accommodate with new expansion?
So I think it's not a cut and dried answer for this project. This project has the 4 offices, the conference room, and then 6 spaces in a collaborative setting. So that's significant, 10-ish people. But what we're also looking at all the other things that I mentioned at the outset. So we're looking at a small renovation in Allentown to bring all the lead people together. So we have 3 people in that new renovated space in Allentown. And the renovations that AJ is talking about downstairs, I'm not sure, you're talking about maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, we get at least 3 more.
Yeah, and those are to accommodate people that already work here or we're trying to hire, that we don't have places to put them.
I think my challenge is we're spending $4 million, we're creating 8 office space. Right, so if we are growing, then I would like to see that expansion of $4 million accommodate 20 people. So I have difficulty getting my head around that we're spending $4 million because of expansion of the people we have, and we are not generating enough office space.
When you talk about the consolidated areas, describe how's that being used?
Sorry, which consolidated areas? Collaborative space?
Collaborative space.
Yeah, so let me just put this back up and put those bigger.
Cubicles.
So that is people in those rooms, correct?
Yeah, yes, six people, at least the concept
So
plan showed 6
I'd say like
cubicles.
6 different cubicles with how many people in each one?
One,
One.
yeah.
These
I would assume.
these are small cubicles.
So it's not, it's more than.
It's still 10 people,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, you have the 3 offices here, regular offices here, 6 in the collaborative space, and then the one
At least the other option
Upstairs.
shows one upstairs.
And the adaptable storage area, what does that free up back in our building, the current building?
So the adaptable storage area would be, potentially, we'd be freeing up space downstairs for AJ's crew by putting file plan storage here. The other thing that we could be looking at is, we could double the amount of people we could put here if we could do something different with the file and paper storage, but that would require paying to rent. I think rental for storage, file storage is significantly more cost effective than rental for office space and like your operations space. Part of the challenge that we have so much of our employee base, they're hands-on, field employees, And if we were to free up, half the space of this building by putting them off-site into a shared space that Chris mentioned, it's garage space that we'd be then having to spend money converting into office space for, the room.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction to the $3.6 million of the project is that in this time when we're really raising rates and things are being stressed, that it's a tough thing to spend money on ourselves, that just to continue doing the work that we had planned. So the question is, did you look at all the different options that are out there that proves this is the best use of our funding and will give us the maximum amount of additional capacity for people and for storage and for meetings and that. So that's what I think the challenge is for us to understand, that we need to spend this money for that.
I think in my view, the presentation has a lot of holes, right? How did we look at different options? I mean, I'm taking your word for granted, but show me that what are the scenarios that some of the office people have brought and you look at them and what this suggests. And if you look at a projection for next, 5 years, right? You're going to be adding, let's say, 20 people, 30 people, right? So are we 3 years from now, we are again short in the space? So I want to see those things to see how, we're spending $4 million creating 6 cubicle and 4 offices. I can stop this, but that's my challenge.
Other board input?
It's been my experience that this is a small business and you're growing, you're bursting at the seams, you're living with it every day, and you have a lot to do. My past experience has been, when you're there, and we can run some diagnostics on this whole thing, and the board can kind of manage this whole thing, but we can disagree on this. But I defer to your experience. You're living with this, you've talked about it, you know what it's like working here. And I think I'm comfortable with the fact that you feel this is the way you want to go. 4 or 5 years, who knows? I think sometimes it's hard to extrapolate out what people's needs are that far out. And we can do a bit of this, but we're in real time right now, and it's expensive to build things these days. I've been out of the business for a while, but to build a good house costs you, it's easy to spend $1 million on a house these days. So anyway, I just offer my 2 cents. That's how I feel about it.
I would just add, and I normally agree with Amir too. I'm gonna have to disagree here. My experience has always been, you spend millions of dollars to put pipe in the ground, not a question, goes ahead. The hardest sells I've ever had is selling office space or a new admin building to a board. And I was telling Brian that earlier. There's always the most questions, board's gonna get, people are gonna look at, why do you need this? Are you building a Taj Mahal? What do you do? And is it efficient? You're spending all this money for a certain amount of offices. Could it be better? But to me, if at some point you got to pull the trigger, the longer you put it off, the more expensive it's going to be as you move down the road. So I've seen that happen as well. And so I think, if we need to get some more numbers to, get everybody on the same page, but I think we should be moving forward with it if you guys are recommending it.
Other board comments, input? John, Mark, Norma? Can't see you.
I just have a question. Are you working with a realtor at all to see what's available locally in the Lehigh Valley?
We had been working with a realtor when we were investigating the office, the rental space. So, and Chris, I don't know if that's who you also used for.
We were doing direct inquiries.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were kind of doing it ourselves.
Well, a mix of both, Norma.
I'm sorry?
A mix of both. We were using a realtor when we were looking at rental space for the customer service consolidation. And then Chris's evaluation of rental space for operations with direct inquiries to property
Well, what about direct purchase?
We haven't looked at that. Trying to find a property that we could either build on or buy and then reconstruct would be very expensive, I think.
I would say we'd go well beyond $4 million if that's the way we wanted to go.
Is it important to have the people that will be populating and the files that are in that new building adjacent to, close to, in collaboration with other people within the business, or do you lose a lot of efficiency if you would go someplace beyond, even if it's a block away?
Yeah, that's what we've struggled with, Brian, because so much of our work is across the organization, and there's a lot of cross-organizational teams that meet regularly working on projects. The lead program is the prime example why we're trying to consolidate folks who are more dedicated to lead into one area, but it's still they work so much across the organization. Having folks here in the building is a huge benefit to getting everyone together and getting on the same page quickly. When we have looked at those options, we actually looked at buying some of the properties around here. To Norma's question about using a realtor, we did have a realtor looking at properties just here. So could we put customer service here, but just at another building adjacent to, and very expensive to do that as well. So when we looked at doing the rental, the consolidation, and we tried to look for groups that maybe work a little more autonomously, like customer service sort of works autonomously on the day-to-day stuff, but there's still a lot of collaboration and internal communication and team meetings that happen. Same thing with field services. Yes, they could probably work efficiently at a separate location, but there's still a lot of in-person collaboration that happens.
How many square footage are we adding?
I'm sorry?
How many square footage are we adding?
4,700.
Yes.
47, that's really a dark scan there.
4,700.
4,700.
What would be the cost per square footage? Under 4 million? 100?
Chuck's doing the math for you.
While Chuck's working on that, so do we ever answer the question? I mean, we're putting together a 50-year plans, if we're looking forward, the 537 plan. And so we have a general understanding of all the work that has to be done. Obviously can't evaluate potential regulatory issues that would require even more people, but we have the lead program, the other programs that we're facing with. So how many years will this building last before it's not big? Best guess.
I would venture, if we get into the preliminary design and we have the consultant evaluate some additional office space upstairs and focus more on remote storage of files, that we would be good for, I'm gonna say 10 years. This is my opinion. And the answer to your question, Amir, it's $755.
$750 square foot.
Yeah.
Square foot costs are hard to generalize about. It depends on the nature of the building and footprint. So the rule of thumbs are dangerous sometimes.
But again, putting a pipe in the ground is clear, right? But when you want to expand something which is not a working capital, right? As a board member, that we have a responsibility, that people put us in this place, we got to ask these kind of questions, right? It's not the opposition, it's the fact that we have to see this scenario that, for me, when you see only 10 office space with the cost of $4 million, it just does not sit well, right? I don't like people to be cramped up. I would like to have a good environment to work in, but at the same time has to make sense. So my suggestion is a little bit of homework that coming back saying that, okay, 3 or 5 years, if we're gonna adding another 10 or 20 people, right? Can we accommodate them without any cost? You know, I don't want to be sitting here 5 years from now with another $1 million to create another 10 office space. Those are the fiduciary responsibility that I feel we have as a board.
Does any one of these designs lend itself to easy expansion? Or easier expansion?
I think that, yeah, I think part of the challenge with this building is that we have really no more space to expand and create more impervious in terms of stormwater management. We can't necessarily pave or create more roof cover. So we're doing 2 stories here to go up. You know, can we do a 3rd story? Could we do something over this garage here, or, you know, some of the other buildings? Not sure. We haven't looked at that, but we would have to go up rather than out.
I'm just
Beyond this.
kind of partially where it is going is, do you put footings in? I'm not a civil engineer. Do you put footings in to allow for a 3rd floor? Because you just whip the roof off it, stick another floor on for a marginal cost versus, and that way you say, well, I get 15 years out of it. Stuart, over the way he's got, what has he got, 4 floors?
Stuart Rogers.
Yeah.
Stuart Rogers building.
He has 4 floors. Just an idea. Because I was looking at this square one. Maybe it's harder to build on the more traditional design. And I'm not an architect, either. Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about this one?
Yeah, that one. And it's like you could whip the roof off that, put another floor on it. It looks like you can do that relatively easily.
Right. Compared to this one?
It's more sort of stylized.
Yeah.
With differential.
So it sounds to me, if I can synthesize what I'm hearing anyway, sounds to me like there's a number of questions that we could work through with the design engineer to get some answers to, but there's also some fundamental questions that maybe we haven't answered with the way we presented this. So, you know, I think there's, to Ted's comment, there's a sense of urgency. We're there, we're busting at the seams, you know, and that, you know, we feel an urgency to do something, but we want to make sure it's the right something. You know, if the board is more comfortable that we think about it and re-present it with some additional information. And I think that we can be comfortable with that. But there are some things that I think we heard that Dewey will help us answer as well. So we're not going to answer everything ourselves.
I agree, it's already there, so I think that, I mean, good presentation, the options look good. The questions are being raised by the board, which are our responsibility, and a little more definition on some of those questions would be helpful. So if there's I assume there's no urgency that it has to be done now or decided that we can wait either another 2 weeks or another month to have it clarified. So let's just table this until we get some more further information clarity, and we'll move on from there. Thank you very much. Okay. So that's Kate.
Can we just ask our solicitor process? We don't need a motion to table something.
No, not to
Not in
table.
this setting. Okay.
Well, by the way, who is the solicitor here?
I'm Rich Campbell from Kingspride. Kevin's on vacation down in Hilton Head.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on then to the next topic. Underwater, we have the Central Lehigh and North Whitehall Systems Water Supply Study. It's a presentation and discussion.
Yes, so there's no handout for this one, but we have in-person people to present this information. Phil, do you want to tee it up?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and just a refresher of what we're going to talk about. February 2022, board authorized a water supply study for both the Central Lehigh Division and North Whitehall Division. In May 2023, both Mike and Aaron presented some findings from that study, and that study was wrapped up in late 2023. It took some time for us to digest all the information. And today, Mike and Aaron are going to present some firm recommendations about how to proceed with enhancing our water supply for both divisions.
So, thanks for everybody for having us. I appreciate the opportunity to get out and, present our work and, as evidenced by the last discussion, recognize that you guys have an awful lot going on and, don't necessarily want to hear that you have even more needs, but, do appreciate that you guys are being proactive in looking at topics like this. So, as Phil referenced, we've been working on this source water study for a couple of years now. I've been working with the authority going back about 15 years or so, heavily on the planning side. And throughout the course of time here, recognize that, again, you guys have an interesting dynamic with your user base, that you've got a lot of large users that come in. You get a lot of requests for water service. Sometimes those requests are, again, large, acute requests at one point in time. We recognize that, your source capacity, as far as where your water's coming from, is that set up to meet, where you are right now and again, out in the future? It's one of those types of things where you need to plan for it. If you have a source need, it's not, snap your fingers and tomorrow you're gonna be able to meet that. So it's often, years out in the making. So your staff kind of rightfully took the initiative to do a study to take a look at where you are right now, as far as, the capacity of your sources versus the various demands you have, and then projecting that out 20 years to see, again, do you have enough supply, not just for today, but 20 years from now, considering, again, all these requests that come in the door. So, again, we were down here a year ago and kind of gave you some preliminary ideas of looking at, kind of hold that all together. There's, again, because of the dynamics of your system, a lot of things have happened throughout the course of the study that we've adjusted and kind of pulled all that together and have some findings and recommendations on, here's where we are and here's where we think that you guys should be looking at, over the next couple of years in terms of your sources. So with that, Erin is with me. Erin did a lot of hands-on work. She's been, with Fleming for 8+ years, and basically since day one, been working with LCA and does a lot of the computer modeling that you guys do. So Erin will kind of talk you through the study, and we purposely try to keep it on the high level here as far as not getting too down into the weeds, but feel free to stop us and ask questions along the way.
Aaron, before you start, I do want to just mention that Amy has been involved with me as well on the report, so she's fully up to speed about the report. And then just my favorite topic, 537. It all tied together with all the projections that were required with 537. So the projections that are presented with the supply study matched the 537. So it all worked out timing wise. Aaron?
So as Mike was saying, a combination of previously completed planning studies, operational feedback, and then a consistent stream of large user water service requests have identified the need for additional supply in the Central Lehigh Division and North Whitehall Division systems. So about 2 years ago, LCA authorized us to complete a source water assessment study for both of these systems in alignment with LCA's strategic plan. The objective of this study was to identify and evaluate feasible means to address current and long-term water supply needs. It's all stuff Mike has said. So in this presentation, we're gonna review high level, like Mike said, the demand projections, supply needs, and potential supply alternatives that we discussed last May. And then we will discuss some of the
discuss the outcome of the report, basically, just like a prioritized list of solutions. As we progressed with this report, it became apparent that the water supply solutions for both CLD and North Whitehall were going to be on like a regional scale. A lot of effort was spent determining how to best utilize neighboring water utilities for interconnections. This map was provided in our board meeting last May, and we call out all of the major water suppliers in the area. And you can see, you know, LCA, your Allentown division provides water to both, you know, CLD and South Whitehall Township. We've been working, I know we've been helping LCA reestablish their interconnections with Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is working to do that with, and their interconnections also with NBMA and Easton Suburban right now. And then you have your North Whitehall system, which gets water solely from NBMA. So this really is kind of like a regional supply solution. And I thought this really just illustrated that really well. So we'll start with CLD, Central Lehigh Division. This is just a high level review of what we talked about last year and what's presented in our report that we gave to VA last week or 2 weeks ago. So we started, our first task was to project demands through 2045. For the CLD system, we used any planning, like available planning information. So we used service requests, sewage facility and municipal waste load management reports, you know, the Act 537 data. And then we also looked at potential growth beyond the current service territory into Low Hill Township and Weisenberg Township. The Act 537 data that Phil mentioned, in that there was a group of users that I think was called like LCA users, and this was basically represented underdeveloped or undeveloped commercial and industrial areas, areas of potential commercial and industrial redevelopment or potential demand growth in existing commercial and industrial areas, like Boston beer. So we used that data. This Arcadis initially included this in the Act 537 data as a means to capture potential growth that's not currently planned in your system. So that's not included in these service requests, but might occur. So that data, like Phil said, was captured in our projections. We try to use the best available information that we had, and that showed that your demand is predicted to increase by 2 million gallons to 13.5 million gallons per day by 2045. One thing we did notice was that it's, you know, not abnormal for you to receive these, what we call like mega user requests. So service requests in excess of 1 million gallons per day. And that is not going to be captured in that Act 537 data, and it's not included in our demand projections because you can't really plan for that. They're kind of like coming and going. You can't predict if they're actually going to become part of your system. A service request of this size, if we did get it, would result in acute need for CLD. So it's just something that's important to keep in the back of your mind, and remember that this report that we did is a living, breathing document, and we're going to revisit this report and these demand projections should be revisited as these large mega user requests come in. The next task was to perform a supply capacity assessment. So the first step for that was to establish your available supply capacity. We worked with engineering staff and operations and utilized information from past studies to finalize the status and existing capacity of all of your active sources. And that resulted in a current supply capacity of 17.7 million gallons per day. Based on the supply capacity assessment, you have both lower and upper systems in CLD have sufficient water supply under normal operations. You can meet everyday needs with your existing supply, but this capacity assessment did find that the Central Lehigh Division was vulnerable to emergencies and is in need of emergency supply to maintain system reliability. which we will discuss a little bit more in depth on the next slide. The last two tasks that we discussed last May included working with LCA staff to develop a list of potential risks and vulnerabilities that could result in a supply shortage, and then making a long list of improvement alternatives to address these needs. So again, just to reiterate, the supply capacity assessment found that LCA has sufficient supply capacity to meet everyday water use under current and future demands. However, like many water utilities, the CLD system is vulnerable to emergencies and is in need of an additional emergency supply to maintain system reliability. Based on the evaluation of improvement alternatives, a prioritized list of solutions was developed, and it's recommended that LCA first address your emergency needs. Those are going to be your high priority alternatives. So the high priority alternatives we came up with to address your emergency supply need include reestablishing an interconnection with South Whitehall Township, reestablishing the existing interim Chance Spring booster station, and establishing a new interconnection with South Whitehall Township. See from this table, the supply gained from each improvement and the rough cost of each improvement. So these are our top three choices, basically. Reestablishing the port's interconnection with South Whitehall Township is probably one of your easier alternatives. The interconnection infrastructure already exists. It's already in the ground, so you'll have minimal capital improvement needed to get this operating, and there's also minimal permitting needed. It can be implemented pretty quickly, and it would provide you with approximately 2.2 million gallons per day for capital cost of about $100,000. These are really rough opinions. I don't want you to hold us to these numbers, but it's feasible. And the next steps to get this done are pretty limited too. We would just need some additional field testing, some final sizing, and coordination with South Whitehall to adjust the agreement. We already have, like we said, we already have the permitted interconnection already exists. So it's just kind of reestablishing it so that it can be right now, I think it's set up so that it's 2 manually operated valves. We want to upgrade it so we'd be automatically supply your system in the event of an emergency.
When you say reestablish, you talked about why did we not keep it established?
I believe that it was implemented for development initially.
Yeah, Andrew, you can help me chime in the details here, but it was put in about 10 years ago as part of that development, right behind where it exists. And it was South Whitehall initiated the interconnect, and it's never been used. As far as I know, it was there because the pipes were so close to each other. We've never had to use it. So we want to make it a permanent connection.
A couple of meetings ago, didn't we approve something with South Whitehall with the water? Yeah, but there one with South Whitehall also?
There was, yeah.
Was that this, or that was something different?
Something different, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was development, essentially an offshoot of this study. That was more of an acute need in the interim throughout the course of this study. It will still help offset some of these needs that we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
It's just, you still need additional to meet the supply that's predicted.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Brian, it was put in, but it was a
Yeah.
emergency interconnect.
Now you want to make it automatic.
And again, $100,000 is just kind of a guess based on it, but it could be less than that. It's, again, everything's there. It's just, it hasn't been used in, 10 years or so. So
You're talking about making it SCADA available as well as we're
likely, yeah. I mean, if it's going to be used consistently, certainly hadn't skated to it would be advisable.
Yeah, and if you saw on the table, there was like the additional supply gain by improvement. I didn't mention this before, but our emergency conditions on this slide are what we're looking at. So currently, your current supply capacity is 17.7 million gallons. Your current ADD is 11.5. So you're fine with supply. When we look at an emergency condition, which is, you know, one of these 3 bullets down here, the loss of a large source due to a raw water quality issue, or then water main break on your key transmission main that you know, brings your water from Allentown to CLD. That's when you would have this emergency condition where you could be 1 million gallon per day deficient in water. And then under 2045, obviously, as we've projected the demands to increase, your emergency condition will increase. So that 2.16 MGD that you would get from the board's interconnection is enough to meet your emergency condition today. It doesn't cover necessarily your emergency condition in 2045, but it does get you almost the whole way there.
One more question here.
Yeah.
Does that, can the other system handle that much water coming into our system without disruption of their services?
We did look at that. So we've already done flow testing. So that's where this 2.2 number came from, flow testing in their system. We also, in the report, you know, there's more detailed information on South Whitehall's existing supply capacity, what their ADD is and what they have in excess. And this is within those numbers.
And we've engaged in a lot of discussions with them throughout the way, and they're certainly interested in kind of cooperating with you guys. They also, you know, they have plenty of excess capacity, but again, no different than, you know, we talked about emergency capacity and things like that. So there might be some advantage to them as well to be able to interconnect to you guys. And if they ever have a need and you guys have the excess, you can go the other way as well.
Is that a cost net neutral arrangement, or somebody have to pay?
No, it's quite that far, but there's, you know, as we talk about again, different alternatives, there might be some cooperative opportunities throughout, even just beyond this first interconnection, right? So it might, you know, this first one, the sports one that we're talking about is largely an LCA need, right? And again, the upgrades that we're talking about are more, the existing facilities within that interconnection. If we're talking about some of these other ones where there might be a strong benefit, stronger need for Whitehall or South Whitehall, certainly an opportunity to talk to them about cost sharing. And certainly we recommend them.
Just like a general interest question, if the average is 11.5 MGD, what's the range around that? How much fluctuation do you see up and down?
That gets back to that, Mag, if you go back to the previous table. So one of the numbers we often use in water systems is max day demand. So that would be like, you know, on record, what's the largest 1 day water usage you have? So that's the
so today we could see 15.
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of typically from a water planning perspective, you know, max day is going to be your normal worst case, right? So you know, without an emergency or even some minor emergency, you want to be able to meet that. And then again, it's going to fluctuate during the day even, but you have storage and whatnot to offset those things.
Along with reestablishing the existing interconnection with South Whitehall, we also, one of our recommendations was utilizing the interim Shant Spring booster station. So this is an existing booster station at the Shant Spring that was, I guess, constructed as like an emergency source when the Shant Spring transmission main and pump station were being constructed. Was that 15, 20?
2010
years ago, 25 years ago, or no, 15. 15. So this exists, it has not been used since then. So again, the infrastructure already exists, minimal capital improvements, minimal permitting needed. The permitting that would be needed or water quality monitoring that would be needed to turn this to a emergency or a reserve source. It's an emergency source, it's not an interconnection. Whereas we believe we already have it from the water quality monitoring you do for the Allentown filtration plant. So there's not a big extra effort there. And it results in a pretty significant supply gain.
Right, back to your question, I said, again, this is another one, why hasn't this been used? When I started, 2010, 2011-ish, you had plenty of excess supply capacity. You had just taken on the additional interconnection with Allentown. So these weren't needed, right? You put them online for a temporary period for a specific need, and you haven't had that need as demands have increased. Now that need exists again. So.
Sorry. The emergency power supply that we have there can handle the additional load.
The generator.
Generator.
The generator at Sean Spring runs across it powers that as well. The generator at Sean Spring Booster Station.
So if you're boosting it up by 2 million gallons per day, are you putting a strain on that, or is it capable of handling that?
The boosters, the pump station is, I think, sized for like 11 MGD. Right now, the max you can take from Allentown is 7. So you do have the light pump.
The reality is, if you ever use this one, again, without getting specifics, I mean, the Shan Spring, the existing Shan Spring pump station might be down. So it's an opportunity to offset if you have an issue there.
Yeah, the idea that this would be used would be, I think if there is a lean break from your Allentown supply. So it would be kind of like pumped around.
Yeah, if I could just add, that station pulls directly from the Sean Spring transmission main, the gravity main from the reservoir that flows to Allentown. That's where this interim pump station pulls from, the 2 MGD. It's connected directly to that line heading out of the Sean station.
So I think just so you can get like a visual, that black line is your transmission main from Allentown, your Sean Spring pump station that pumps from the Allentown supply into your system is somewhere around here. There's the spring there that goes to the Allentown treatment plant. So it pulls, instead of the spring feeding your treatment plant, you'd be able to pull directly from here and go into your system if there were ever an issue on this main. That's our second high priority alternative, and then our third would be establish a new interconnection with South Whitehall Township along that transmission main I just called out. So that transmission main that supplies water to CLD from Allentown runs alongside the South Whitehall system. And it basically, if we set up a interconnection there, it would minimize, the vulnerability of there being a main break along that. It's 2-mile long main. From flow testing we did last spring, South Whitehall has the ability to supply a lot of water at that location. You can get about 3.6 million gallons per day. The estimated cost is a little higher than our original interconnection, the port's interconnection, because this one doesn't exist yet. So there's a little more higher infrastructure costs, but it would still provide you enough water to meet your emergency need in 2045.
Has any assessment been done on these water sources for PFAS?
So a large percentage of the South Whitehall Township supply is already Allentown division. So you guys would have that information, which again, it's so far you're good. Yeah, Allentown supply, correct? Yeah. I have not heard directly from South Whitehall where they stand on PFAS with their wells. So their supply is a combination of wells and Allentown division. Again, a large part of their access is the Allentown division supply. I'm not sure where they stand with wells, but it's a great
Well,
question.
it takes one source somewhere that gets into the system or so.
Yeah, obviously, they're subject to the same regulatory requirements that we are, so if they have a PFAS issue, they have to deal with it, just like if we have a PFAS issue, we have to deal with it. So.
Yeah, something to keep in mind, certainly. So we also looked at what we call medium priority alternatives. These would be alternatives to address longer term supply needs. So they're not necessarily needed to meet your emergency supply needs. And these are viable improvements that can be implemented in the future as needed. These include mostly rehabilitation or upgrades to existing groundwater well sources. So you can see right here, a table that shows the additional supply gained from each and the. So again, this isn't to meet emergency need. This is more if you have something like that unplanned mega user we discussed, you have the ability to increase or modify your agreement with Allentown to increase the supply capacity at your Shant Spring interconnection. It's that interconnection, the pumps there were designed for about 11, I think 10.5 million gallons per day. Your current interconnection is 7. So that's always available to you if you need to increase your supply. This wouldn't address any emergency needs though. Another alternative we looked at was reestablishing another interconnection with South Whitehall, which is the Hamilton Boulevard interconnection that provides a smaller gain than the other interconnections we discussed. And you can see that the rough opinion of probable cost is higher. That is because this interconnection is currently located in a kind of unsafe place to access on Hamilton Boulevard. So we'd have to relocate that interconnection and put in new infrastructure and all of that kind of stuff. Upgrading specific wells, again, these are low yield improvements at higher means of probable costs, but they are feasible alternatives in the future if you need to increase your everyday supply. And then the last thing we looked at were these low priority improvements. And again, these are like upgrades to existing well sources. They're considered potentially viable if additional supply is needed due to an unplanned mega user or other increases in demand. But they have pretty high capital costs for low supply gains. So that's CLD. We also looked at North Whitehall division. This system is a little bit more straightforward than the Central Lehigh division. Again, a review of what we discussed last year. For North Whitehall, there wasn't a lot of readily available planning information that could be used to project water demands. So as a result, we used historic trends that we're waiting. I think North Whitehall is currently undergoing an Act 537 planning process. So we're hoping that once they have that information, they will share it with LCA and us, and we can update these demand projections accordingly. But based on historic trends, we found that ADD was projected to increase from, I think, 0.6 MGD currently to 1.4 by 2045. The supply capacity assessment for North Whitehall was a lot more straightforward. North Whitehall relies exclusively on an interconnection with NBMA. And per the agreement with NBMA, you can receive up to 1 million gallons a day from them. So the projected supply needs, the supply capacity assessment found that projected demands in North Whitehall will exceed your maximum supply capacity at 1.4 is greater than 1 million gallons in the future. Additionally, you have an emergency supply need currently and under for future demand conditions in North Whitehall. The most viable option to address your source needs is to establish, or we found through the study that the most viable option to address your, reliable and projected future source needs is through a secondary interconnection with NBMA, and see how the NBMA system the North Whitehall division system kind of like runs north to south. The NBMA system runs like kind of parallel to that. We have a few locations, viable locations that could work for interconnection between the two, and based on the improvements needed, it would require about 1.5 miles of 12-inch main, and that is about 2.6 million gallons, or $2.6 million in capital cost.
Before we move on to that, I know, Andrew, this is a high priority for operations, just because of the one interconnect. And there was an issue, last month.
And earlier this year, there was an issue with the break that caused chaos on the lower side of the system there.
Yeah, you can see that, again, like the systems run north to south, the interconnect is to the north of the system. So a break in the interconnection and a break in your northern Whitehall division could create supply issues in the southern part of your system. So a secondary interconnection could help prevent that. So our next steps for both CLD and North Whitehall division systems is to implement the high priority alternatives to enhance reliable supply capacity. This includes looking and adjusting interconnection agreements, performing additional field investigations, and getting started on basis of design reports. Kind of concurrently, we will work on continuing the master plan. So the secondary part after supply is to look at your distribution and transmission systems. So that includes using the model to perform a pipeline capacity assessment, looking at available system fire flow and unaccounted for water, and then looking at storage as a whole. And then, like we mentioned earlier, the systems are very sensitive to large users. So this is something that, as these large user requests come in, we want to continuously review your supply needs as they change with your demands.
So I have a question. So for the Central Lehigh division, this focused on an issue with transmission, right? So was there any look at if there was actually a problem at the water plant? Because that would be half the water for South Whitehall would be gone because they would only have water from their wells. Was that looked at all as to see what would?
So one of the things that we did, we just didn't want to get into the detail of this kind of public forum. We looked at the list of all the different vulnerabilities.
Oh, okay.
And these alternatives, we kind of weighed out, could it offset one vulnerability, all the vulnerabilities together?
Okay.
So, one of the things, the initial table with the high priorities, two of those were essentially a backup to the Shantz interconnection, right? The other one was, it was more able to address several of those vulnerabilities. So that does weigh into it.
Your port's interconnection would be able to address.
Because, as we noted, South Whitehall, even though they do rely on Allentown for large part of supply, they do have, significant capacity with well supply as well.
Right.
And they have significant, we did look at if, they lost their Allentown, would they still be able to supply, they have significant access to supply CLD.
Okay, that was my question. Yeah, that's.
I believe that was looked at too when we the original interconnection at Applewood, so the one you remembered from last year.
Done with your presentation?
Great.
All right, thank you very much. Any other board questions? What's next? As far as the studies go, you're done with that, with the study?
That one, yeah, you know, I think it's one that you don't necessarily like talk about, put on the shelf and never use. I think again, it's gonna be continuous progress, but certainly we talked with Bill and Amy about, you know, engaging Northampton on the North Whitehall interconnection. They're already aware of that. They've got some things going on in their system that again, there might be some opportunity for cooperative, you know, where they want to expand out to the west a little bit. So certainly that's something, as Andrew just mentioned, it's a high priority because of just, you know, we have a single source in North Whitehall right now. And again, these other high priority for CLD, again, we feel them to be fairly simple as far as implementation. So it's really just getting out there, confirming what we know as far as what's in those existing meter chambers, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be enhanced, you know, and then basically kind of getting that into either a design, it might even be as simple as just an equipment purchase, you know, option as far as getting that up and running.
Okay. So the ball's in our court with the results of your study.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah, we'll continue. We work often with Bill and AJ and Chuck and your team when you have one of these larger user requests come in, revisit all this stuff.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Thanks again for having us.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have water filtration plant HVAC upgrades, phase one, seeking approval, three documents in the board package and digital board package pages 102 to 105.
Chuck, I think the rest of the meeting's yours.
Yeah. Thanks, there's
I saw a lot of Amy here. So
Yeah, there's a lot of Amy's. Just keep this one maybe a little shorter than the last one. So this is, Amy's gonna present this, Amy Rohrbach. So this is phase one of an HVAC upgrade project at the water plant. And phase one is concentrated on the customer service area, and downstairs offices and lobby. So this project right now, the design phase is, design phase was completed under the annual account, but you'll see with the upcoming capital plan presentation, there's going to be a breakout of this project because it's a 2025 construction. So with that, turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Chuck. So yes, as Chuck mentioned, this is an HVAC upgrade project. The existing system at the water filtration plant is aging and it's problematic. It's a maintenance, frequent maintenance is needed, and it also contains glycol, which can be a concern due to leaks, being that we are at a water filtration plant. So we're looking to upgrade that, and the new system will be more efficient and it'll provide better control for the various spaces. So phase one, as Chuck mentioned, is the first floor offices, customer service lobby area. We're focusing on that first, as that is the area that currently is not functioning. So there's no functioning HVAC or air conditioning in those spaces. There are portable units in some areas. But it can get a little toasty in there at times, especially in this current heat wave we have. So this phase, we put it out to bid. As Chuck mentioned, Dewey Engineering was our consultant, and as of July 1st, their name has changed to CHA Consulting. So I apologize. The memo still says Dewey, but the other documents reference the new name. So we only received one bid for the HVAC construction, but we did receive 2 electrical bids. We talked to the bidders, and ASL Refrigeration was the low bidder for the HVAC. And they have done work at the plant, and they actually visited the plant on multiple occasions to look at everything and really get a good feel for it. So we're confident that their pricing is good and solid, based on their experience at the plant and their investigation during the bidding phase. And then the two electrical bidders were Orlando Diefendorfer and Alvarell, both quality contractors. Diefendorfer is currently actually working at the plant on the filter project. And they're working at Pines Island as well, and they're located just down the street. So they were aggressive with their numbers. They came in low bid. So the total HVAC and construction cost is a little bit above the engineer's estimate, but we feel these are good numbers based on our review. So the total electrical and HVAC is $681,489. And then we also have, are requesting a PSA for CHA Consulting, formerly Dewey, for $74,600 for construction assistance, during inspection and construction oversight during the project. So the total authorization before you today is $796,089. That includes some staff and contingency. And I'm just trying to keep it brief, so. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So just kind of surprised with this large of a project that we didn't need a general contractor. It's all HVAC work. They can do everything.
Yeah, it's sort of general / mechanical.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of general contracting. There's some rooftop work, penetrations and
Right.
things. Like an HVAC contractor can do that as well.
Okay.
Like rooftop, like that kind of the modifications from the demolition, like the renovation work, that they can do that.
Okay.
Presumably you don't have a whole lot of choice in something like this, you either either do it or you don't.
Yeah, and other contractors were notified of this. I don't know that other HVAC contractors are that busy right now. I assume that is the case. Because there were more people that showed up at the pre-bid. They just chose not to bid.
It could just be the time of year, and a lot of these HVAC contractors right now are working on schools. Maybe they just, couldn't fit it in their bidding schedule.
It's too bad. We essentially got one bid of this whole.
Yeah.
We have worked with them before, and we are confident that, they were out at the plant on multiple occasions. They were up in ladders, looking in the roof and the ceilings, so I think they had a good feel for the job and they priced accordingly, so.
Looking at the notice to proceed. It's made for September 1st. We'll get the wrong thing here. We okay this, when would they actually start? When would they have the work done?
Well, there's a lead time on some of the equipment, so we have, per the contract, they would have until April of next year, so it would be completed for the next season's air conditioning
So
season.
they're not gonna be able to do work during this hot season, so. The work would be
They
done
won't have the equipment, so they won't be able to.
equipment delivery time.
Mhm.
It's kind of like it minimizes the urgency for, so this won't help this season. Okay. Any questions? Board questions? All right, and hearing none, we have a capital project authorization for the Allentown Division water filtration plant HVAC system upgrades phase 1 for a total amount of $496,089. That includes a professional service authorization, construction administration to CHA, also known as Dewey Engineering, for $74,600. General construction contract award to ASL Refrigeration for $633,631, and an electrical construction contract award to Orlando Diefendorfer for electrical contractors for $47,858. Need a motion and a second for that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, I got Norma. Was that Sean? Sean
Yes.
made the motion, seconded by Norma. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Amy. Angela. Okay, next on the agenda. Water filtration plant, emergency power design, seeking approval, pink documents in the board package, digital package pages 106 to 115.
Okay, thank you, Lee. So this is another Amy Rohrbach project. The main driver of this project is resiliency and redundancy for a separate power feed to supply the water filtration plant. There's a DEP regulation, it's called Chapter 109, and there's a section in that that requires for population served of greater than 10,000 an uninterrupted supply of service. Okay, and right now we satisfy that requirement based on storage alone, which is a finite volume, as everybody knows, this project would provide additional resiliency for the plant in event of an extended outage from the single substation that provides the plant. So with that, turn it over to Amy again.
Correct. Thanks, Chuck. As Chuck mentioned, we were before you back in January for a professional services authorization for design and bidding services with Keystone Engineering Group for this additional feed from a different substation. And as a result of that, the application to PPL for this new service resulted in this, what do they call it? Method of supply letter. And so this documents what they need to do, PPL, for their engineering, design, and construction to bring that new line to the plant. As a result of it, there's an estimated cost of $779,000. And I've been told they always estimate on the high side, so this will likely come in a little bit less when everything's said and done, but we want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. But this will include all their design efforts and the construction of this new line to the plant. And then we will have to then have a contractor make the final connections and at the plant to get everything up and running. But those fees that'll go out to bid, and that'll be at a future meeting down the road. That's estimated, the construction phase between the contractor and our consultant services is about $175,000. 150 to 175,000 is what we're anticipating, in addition to this 779 that is before you today. So we need to respond to PPL and authorize this letter of authorization. That is the last page of the documents for this item. And that is what is before you today. So it's 779,000 is the estimate for the PPL services to run this new line.
From a different substation.
Correct.
So
This is from the MAC substation.
Well, there's two feeds to the plant now, but they're both in the same substation.
Two questions. So, generator wasn't a feasible alternative?
A generator was more expensive,
Was, okay.
and there's an annual operating cost associated with it that when we did the initial study, this was the lowest cost, and it provided, a benefit for having the alternate feed.
Just wanted to check. And then the second comment is I can't believe our chairman can't get us a discount as a from the P&L.
The original price was $780,000.
I was wondering, who asked for money up front to be paid? I apologize for that.
The existing substation is 1 by 100%. It's not 2 by 100%. There's not, because sometimes they build substations with parallel redundancy in them.
You're talking about the whole substation itself, or
That I'm not sure.
I know in my business, when we build a substation, we put 200% capacity in 2 trains and run on 1. So we can flip over if transformer.
I do know there has been several instances where we lost both feeds from that substation. Do you know the most recent one?
It was probably about a year and a half ago.
I would guess, I've been through this, many of these plants and the substations they're connected to are gated.
are old.
Yeah.
And we've had a number of projects. That's why I asked about the generator. Actually, one of my other clients, they went with the generator for the wastewater plant because they had the same issue. 2 feet from the same substation. I'm pretty sure Bethlehem has the same condition at their wastewater plant. It's not uncommon, but if those stations are old, they probably do not have what you're.
It doesn't help you if the main line goes down. It only helps you if your substation craps out.
Correct.
One fire in the substation would wipe out both feeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Board?
So this would take a while, once we execute this. A while until the design is complete, until we come to you for design authorization for an electrical contractor to run the final terminations.
Yeah.
It'd be at least a year.
They're estimating 14 to 18 months PPL.
Yeah, all day. All right. Good. All right, thank you, Amy. All right, we have before us a capital project authorization, Allentown Division Water Filtration Plant Emergency Power. The PPL letter of authorization. The design, engineering, design and construction for a total of $779,000, which is the letter of authorization that we have to sign for $779,000. Need a motion and a second.
So moved, Brian. Mark.
Mark, thank you, Mark. And Amir seconded. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mike. Amy, thank you. All right, moving on then to wastewater. We have one item under wastewater and it is, or we don't, we have 3. One item on this page. Spring Creek Force Main Condition Assessment Approval, Golden Rod in our board package, digital package pages 116 to 124.
Okay, so Amy Cookle's going to present this one. This condition assessment, the primary drivers behind this is asset management and Act 537 planning. The deliverable from this project will be included as an attachment to Phil's Act 537 plan that gets submitted to DEP. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Okay, so this is a condition assessment on the Spring Creek Force Main. So the Spring Creek Pump Station and Force Main it's an integral part of the whole Western Lehigh interceptor. It bypasses portions of the interceptor and runs, started as an intermittent pump station. It now runs daily. So pretty important piece of infrastructure that we have. The condition assessment is going to be done at areas that we think are critical. A lot of them are high points near our air release valves where we feel the gas may have accumulated and caused corrosion on the inside of the pipe. We are looking at I believe two low spots as well, just to get a sense of it. We did go out to the field and kind of look at areas, not only high spots, but also areas that were accessible, that we could get in and use this broadband electromagnetic technology where a contractor will come in, excavate to expose the pipe, expose the force main. They put these kind of a blanket of sensors around it and take readings on the pipe. So it's non-intrusive to the pipe. And then they, I guess it's a current or something that flows through these. And they were able to assess like wall thickness of the pipe and see where there might be some corrosion. Arcadis, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, they've done a lot of these assessment works. They would be the ones leading this in using local local contractor for the excavations. They would get the readings, they're hoping to do within a 2-week period of time, almost like a rolling, get a couple excavations open, get in there, do their readings, and then have the contractor continue excavating ahead for the locations, and then also following and filling in and restoring it right away so that it's not open for very long. We are able to use 3 existing air release valve pits that won't need excavating because they were large enough and there was enough pipe in there that we can get the equipment on. They're hoping to get in there and do this before the end of September, if possible. That's the time. So we got a price, professional services price from Arcadis to do that for $190,000, and then some additional little bit of staff time to be out there assisting with anything that may come up. So the total capital project authorization is for $205,000.
Okay. Questions of the board?
Just curious, isn't LCA staff can't do the digs? Just don't have the time or the equipment to do it, and they're having a contractor just kind of digging test pits, right? And again, I'm not suggesting, I'm just asking.
Yeah, we just have to expose the pipe in I think 6 of the locations.
Yeah, we did consult with them, but they're, with the fact that they, we need them there and on call to continue ahead, but also have another crew. They just didn't feel like they had the manpower or equipment to take that on.
When they access the pipe, do they go each direction, or is it just that one local area that they're doing the thickness readings on?
It's one local area, but it's, I believe they need about 6 feet of exposed pipe to put this blanket of sensors. So that's where they're getting the readings. So that's why we're doing multiple locations in what we feel are the highest risk areas.
Yeah, where you have high points in the pipe, that's where you incur gas pockets. When the pump station is not pumping, in your gas pockets, that's when, you can have hydrogen sulfide gas released from the liquid, which turns into sulfuric acid, which heats the inside of the pipe.
If you find corrosion and thinning of the wall, what is the solution? 5 miles of the
Some sort of rehabilitation project, most likely it could be an internal lining project. You could prioritize it based on the worst areas. It'd be very expensive because you'd have to bypass pump for a time.
Other questions from the board? Okay. We have before us a capital project authorization for the planning phase, suburban division, Spring Creek Force Main condition assessment for a total amount of $205,000. That includes a professional services authorization to Arcadis for $190,000.
Make a motion, Sean.
Thank you for motion.
I'll second it. This is Norma.
For the second. All right, we have motion made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right. All right. Next on the agenda, Spring Creek Force Main relocation, PA Turnpike Commission seeking approval. It was purple documents within our board package, digital pages 125 to 127.
Okay, Amy's gonna talk more about the Spring Creek Pump Station Force Main. This project is driven by the turnpike widening, where Lower Punji Road crosses the turnpike. So, we have to relocate our force main in the area that it's inside and outside the right of way where it would be disturbed and needs to be moved. So Amy's gonna talk about this one, so take it away.
Okay, so as everyone's aware, the turnpike is working its way north on the northeast extension, widening it. And as part of that, the bridge over the turnpike on Lower Macungie Road needs to be replaced. And what they're doing is they need to build a new bridge to the south of it while they keep the old one has to stay in operation. So that's gonna involve a new bridge to the south, a lot of fill because they have to elevate the road and actually relocate part of Lower Macungie Road. Our force main is in Lower Macungie Road for most of this. It dips to the south, which is where the new bridge is going to cross under the turnpike. And then once it crosses over Lower Macungie Road and heads north. So because of the bridge being installed to the south, a significant amount of the our force main needs to be relocated. We did look at trying to minimize that, and use the existing crossing that we have, but with the amount of fill that they were putting in and strange angle that it takes to head north, it was just determined better to have a new crossing under the turnpike to the north of all of this construction. So it involves about close to 1,800 feet of relocation of 24-inch force main. There is a section of the force main. This is right in the area where the first phase of Spring Creek Force Main ended and the second phase began. So there is a section that drains by gravity or has the ability to drain by gravity back into the interceptor. And we wanted to keep that in case anything happens on a portion of the force main, any kind of break or anything that allows us to then drain there. So there is some relocation of that as well. So the turnpike is using Gannett Fleming. So we kind of are having our relocation project bundled in with their entire project. Gannett Fleming did the design. We've used Gannett Fleming for a lot of our engineering, so we were confident with them. The amount of cost is directly related to how much of our existing line is in public right of way and how much is in private right of way. This is similar to how PennDOT operates when there's work done that requires relocation of utilities. We just happen to have the agreement with the Turnpike Commission, but for this, 81% of our line was in right of way, which would be 50-50 cost share. And 19% is in private right of way, which the Turnpike will pay 100% for that. So these numbers reflect that kind of calculation. And it's based upon the engineer's estimate. So the numbers could change. I mean, they did put in contingency, but that it isn't an exact number. It's subject to once the contract's let. So we're asking for authorization for the project as well as authorization to enter into the agreement with the Turnpike Commission.
Okay. Questions?
I do. Just one quick question here. Can you speak more to, Amy, can you speak more to that underfunding, the last line? You know, I have concerns, obviously, you know, I think certainly it's based on, you know, formula and reimbursable costs and what the Turnpike Commission will cover. But it says the final reimbursable amount will be determined by the PTC at the completion of construction. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Does LCA have any, you know, say in kind of that end phase determination?
Their work is subject to public bidding, so they're gonna be going with a contractor who essentially is low bidder for the project. And we do have some say with how the construction's going. We're only responsible for reimbursement of the actual force main relocation part of this whole project. So, and we will have costs there include, us having a full-time inspector on site to help, control costs as well as, verify, installation.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So I guess we'll get a condition assessment when that pipe's ripped out of the ground for some of it, huh?
Yes, we are gonna coordinate so they can take a look at the inside of it, during that, yes.
A big deal in this design is obviously sequencing construction and minimizing our downtime to our pump stations. So all those factors have been incorporated into the design. And LCA operations has been on board, has been commenting on all the design elements here. Just so you don't think our Spring Creek pump station is going to be down for an extended period of time. There'll be critical tie-ins that are done in the course of a single day. Weather permitting.
The water is not an attachment to the bridge, it goes underneath the turnpike.
Correct, it's a new mooring.
Yes, and we did say that we wanted to maintain ownership of the original carrier pipe that the force main is now in the event that we would ever need it for a water line extension, to get under the turnpike. Water line's a little easier to work around and we don't then have to cross over McConaughey, but we just said, don't get rid of it, cap it, and we want to maintain rights to that.
Okay, anything else? I have before us a capital project authorization, construction phase, Suburban Division, Spring Creek Force Main relocation, and Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission construction phase. Total amount of $841,055.72. That includes a Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission cost sharing agreement for the terms of our existing contract with the commission, correct? For a total of $821,055.72.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Norma. Seconded by Jeff. Motion by Norma and seconded by Jeff. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Amy. Okay, also on our agenda, your wastewater is emergency declaration. Emergency sewer main repair on Ellsworth Street, seeking approval retroactively. That's same salmon papers under our board package and digital board package page 128.
Chris, I assumed you would handle this one.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Lisa. On Saturday, June 22nd, the LCA crew was called out to Ellsworth for a small sinkhole that had opened up alongside the curb. Upon investigation, the team showed up and did some water line investigation, which is generally speaking what we would find that there would be a water issue that had been caused by a sinkhole that opened up. Found that the water system was fine. So the crews took it upon themselves to go a little bit further and investigate inside the sewer. And what they had found was there was a collapsed section of 15-inch main. Reason to be determined at this point. The emergency part of all this was there was a Iron Pigs game that was starting in about an hour and a half, and this was the primary sewer made for the Iron Pig Stadium. So the guys on site, yeah, it could have got pretty exciting there if we hadn't been able to clear this up. The guys on site, knowing that it was an emergency situation, called Shoreman Excavating, who are better prepared to dig as deep as we keep our sewers. And
the LCA crew, put in emergency bypass pumping to get from one manhole to the other while the shoreman crew was able to work. The pipe was so deformed internally that we had to downsize to 8-inch, on a temporary basis. To get the emergency repair in place and back up and running so that that part of the city could operate properly. For anybody interested, this is right by the old Bell Labs building on Union Boulevard, right across the street. There's a road straight across the street from Bell Labs. I think it's a charter school right now. They were able to get the emergency repair in place that day, and subsequently the crew and shoremen are out on site this week, and they expect to replace almost 100 yards of 15-inch concrete sewer pipe. They actually have to move it out into the main road a bit further based on what is already stacked inside of that construction zone. So we're putting in a new manhole, diverting it out about 4 or 5 feet into the middle of Ellsworth, up towards Union, and then back into the existing manhole to make sure that it stays safe. Looking to be a cost occurred and expected cost up to $250,000. And because of the time sensitive nature, it was approved by Liesel at the time to do the emergency repair and approve the emergency work by shoreman. So what we're looking for is board approval to bypass purchasing guidelines as a result and address the emergency retroactively to June 25th, 2024.
Any questions? Okay, we have before us a emergency declaration for reimbursement up to a total of $250,000 retroactive to June 22nd. Correct?
Yes, sir.
June 22nd of 2024 for the emergency repair on Ellsworth Street. Any questions? Any motion? Second? Motion by Ted.
Second by Sean.
Second by Sean. Thank you very much. Motion made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Hey, Chris. Save the day for the game.
There was some sweat right before the game started, to be honest with you.
Okay, next on agenda, item number 6 is the monthly project updates. White pages within our board packet, and it's digital packet pages 129 to 130. July report.
Yes, thank you. And if you thought this meeting was packed, just wait until the next one. We have a lot of projects on deck, and that kind of shows itself in this report. A number of items coming up for the next meeting in July on the 22nd. I think we'll have both Amy's back for a number of projects, both on the water and the wastewater side. So yeah, they do a great job, and we'll hear more about their projects, some meter projects, water plant projects. And then we also have, of course, some wastewater projects. On the, not on the report, but wanted to add 2 items. First being we'll bring the Operations Center project back. It might not be until August because we want to make sure we have internal time to review and present in more detail some responses to the conversation we had today. We also will want to bring either probably in August, but possibly in July, a discussion to the board around a resolution related to delegation of responsibilities. It's something that has been on our list of to-do items for a while. Rich has been working with me and the staff group on some ideas. So it'll be a discussion first, and then, at some point we finalize recommendations and bring that back to you. So we'll plan for that either in July or more likely in August. There are a couple of items that are shown on the project update section of the report, beginning on page 5. Just wanted to draw your attention to the first item, which is the capital plan. We are entering capital plan season, which we try to do slightly ahead of budget season. So in August, we'll be dedicating some time at our meetings to reviewing the 5-year capital plan. If there's any questions on any of the project updates, There's also a lengthy list of open projects. Just wanted to make sure you're aware, there are some items on the list that are shown in the project phase column as being in project closeout. Those are items that will be removed next time, so the list will get slightly shorter next time. And then we'll add more things to it.
Do you have enough colored paper?
Yeah. I think we just about ran out of colored paper. We'll see what we do for the next one. But if there's any questions on anything in the report or anything at all.
I just have one comment on the chemically enhanced primary treatment study. I'm sure you guys have contacts at the city of Bethlehem. They've actually installed that system. I don't know if it's started up yet, but if you haven't already, maybe you've spoken to them and probably would be helpful.
Yes, AECom, obviously the help with that, they're helping here as well, so yes, there's been coordination.
Does that also take care of your staff comments?
Yes.
Okay. Solicitor comment?
Nothing from the solicitor. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Any public comments on any topics whatsoever?
No, thank you, Brian.
Thank you for staying with us, Jenny. All right, board member comments? All right, no need for executive session. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.